Sarah the Rebel, and this is Women Wrestling Friends, a podcast where I talk about women, wrestling, and whatnot with my gal pals. Today's gal pal, bing, LysGruesome. How you doing? We're going to get to talking to you a little more, but basically, Lys and I met because she is an aspiring wrestling manager that I met at the Santino Rose announcer class. We'll talk about that a little more. Overall, today, what we want to talk about is the greatest managers in wrestling history. Probably going to be much more WWE focused than anything else, simply because I am a product of my time. And I wasn't, alive in the 60s walking around checking out stuff on the independent circuit. So, anywho, first I want to know a little bit more about you. How did you first become a wrestling fan?
Okay, so I started watching wrestling when I was a little kid. I remember watching it with, my great-grandpa and absolutely adoring Ric Flair and Undertaker. Totally just fell off the map for a while. I moved out here from the East Coast about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Where did you move from?
From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Philly girl.
City of brotherly love. And I don't know what happened, but I just kind of fell back into, watching it on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. Going to more independent shows out here. And I think that as soon as I started seeing everything that was in this little, area of Southern California. Little area. It's not a little area. Well, it's a giant area.
But it feels small, too.
It feels
like it's knit.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So I think once I started going out to shows, seeing the same people, I remember oh, wait, but they're awesome. Right. And I just kind of started fanning out real hard, so.
That's awesome. A lot of people on here, I always notice the patterns whenever we have guests on. Ric Flair and Undertaker, very popular with almost all of the women I've talked to. Mm-hmm. Probably if I had guys on, we might find the same thing, but I don't know. And then almost every single person I talked to about wrestling has a hiatus, a time period where they stopped watching for a while and then something got them back into it. For me, it was actually meeting the person who gave me this dope Christmas shirt. Oh, you can't see it past the microphone. There we go. Xavier Woods. I met him somewhere, and then I was like, I don't watch it consistently anymore. And right about that time, they had the network, which made it way more convenient. Because growing up, we never bought pay-per-views, and I didn't.
That's a commitment.
Right, and I think Granddad got TV guides.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't really always knowing when the wrestling was going to come on. True. But when it was on, I watched it. So how did you come up with this persona? Kathy from HR is a manager persona you have in the announcer class. Quick little segue real quick. The announcer class at Santino Bros has been really awesome. If you want to see some of what we do, actually, on Facebook, you can go watch the videos because we basically produce a live show every week.
Yep.
And we have, some of us do sound, some of us do refereeing, some of us do commentary. We switch up the roles, so it's a very hands-on class. It's really cool. You came in with this persona already, though.
Yeah, so that was kind of the funny thing is that I was raised as, performing, mm-hmm. since I was a little kid. So, singing, dancing, acting, all that stuff. And I found this beautiful parallel to theater mm-hmm. in wrestling. Yes. So I mean the HR persona is totally plucked from real life because I was absolutely a human resources professional.
Is that why you're so good at it?
Yeah. So art mimicking life. I remembered. So I had told myself, I'm I want to be involved in wrestling, mm-hmm. and I actually went to Santino Brothers, did the one-day tryout. So I was okay, it's one day. I'm going to get in the ring, and I'm cardio is not my friend. I hate it. I can't breathe. This is terrible. I can't move my neck. Everything hurts. I'm dying.
Yes.
But then we got to the point where they were okay, and now we're going to talk about character development. I'm ding.
Right.
It felt so right. So I had kind of been playing around with the idea of this human resources professional that is just totally out to, I guess her thing is, what better way to break and bend the rules than to know all the rules and to just make up the rules.
Classic manager technique. We'll talk about that more.
So yeah, I think that what it was, I remember reading an article, I forget who they were interviewing, but they said, I didn't want to try to be a personality that was so not who I was. I wanted it to have a little bit of a pull from my life. And I'm all right, well, this seems like something that could work. One of my best friends from home, her husband's actually a wrestling manager out in Philly, and he does this very like snarling, he like mean mugs all the time, and he's like this government agent manager. And I loved the idea of this like very straight and narrow person, but like they're gonna fuck some stuff up, you know? So I totally fell in love with that whole idea.
Just to give the people watching and listening a little taste, could you talk for them a little bit as Kathy from HR, because it's a treat.
So what we really need to be cognizant of is the fact that we're here in this wrestling ring, and we need to be very mindful of how we're coming across to one another, because certain things, certain jaunts and jeers, they will not be tolerated.
Not tolerated. Thank you for
Anytime,
that.
absolutely.
So the first time I'd missed the first class. The first time I heard you was whatever class I ended up, I think it was the second class. And it was real hard not to just bust up laughing out loud. Everybody in that class is so good. It's so ridiculous. Good. We got a robot. I was in stitches every time he talked.
Every time. And I mean, we have Holden Body, who does like, look at me in my leggings, like fashion icon. I think it's hysterical. What I love about the class is that it's not just about announcing and managing. It's about like producing an entire show. Yeah. So every little piece that goes into it, I think, is fascinating to learn about.
And it makes you respect things a lot more. For example, I had to be the music person one day. Now, normally at a show, it's probably set up a little better. There's probably somebody there with a laptop plugged into a sound system. We just had to make it work. So first I'm like, okay, YouTube. Then I'm like, wait, YouTube ads. Okay, Spotify. I don't have Spotify Premium. Had to use someone else's phone. Forgot to ask him for the code to unlock it in case it locked. Luckily, it did not lock until the final match, and the final match was a draw, so nobody had music played.
Great.
But what you don't really think about is how much you can affect the show. We never hear this on WWE, but on indie shows, you might have experienced it once or twice where the music doesn't hit when it's supposed to, or the music cuts off before it's supposed to, or the music goes way longer than it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And it really affects the show. And so like, oh, okay, you're just doing music tonight, no pressure, except, oh my gosh.
Except lots of pressure.
It was so much pressure. I was like, I don't know, is it loud enough? I can't hear, this is as loud as it, what's happening? There's a run-in,
what do I do
I'm just
now?
going to turn the music off.
Is this what happens at this point?
Right. So, and then there are people who do the camera work. Refereeing is something I haven't gotten to try yet.
I am so terrified about doing that.
Me too.
I'm so scared.
I did a seminar with Marty Elias, who's a referee from Lucha Underground and from WWE back in the day. And they had us hop in, and I was like, I've never done it before. He's like, well, you've seen it, so just try it, because we're going to give critique. And I'm like, okay. Getting my body across the ring, on the floor, off the floor, slapping hard enough, yelling loud enough.
Yeah.
Things you take for granted as a human being.
It's so, and it's the parallel from like TV or even a live show to being involved in the show is so crazy.
Right. So you mentioned that you checked out a few of the indie shows. What are some of the shows you've been to, and who are some of your favorite indie wrestlers?
Oh, wow. Okay, so, I don't know if he'd be technically indie, but Willie Mack, I love. I see him at PCW
I think he still
shows.
Counts, yeah.
I think he's fantastic.
It's pretty great.
Absolutely phenomenal. He's one of those people that I see his name on the card, I'm like, oh yeah.
Just like that?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I get really excited about it. I was just at the PCW show with his match with Fatu was out of this world.
I did not really expect to be as drawn into that. I have trouble with a lot of the PCW matches in that I'm really heavy on story. It's kind of my jam.
Love it.
And PCW does not care. PCW's like, get in the ring and punch each other hard. And it could be fun, but it takes more to get me into it. And their match just sucked me in. It's like, what's can these men do? Oh, they're just hitting the crap out of each other.
And they're two like big old dudes.
They are.
That are just throwing their bodies around, and it is such a pleasure to watch.
It is. And coincidentally, two really nice, kind dudes outside of the ring. Pretty great. Willie Mack is a hugger.
Is he?
Yep,
Oh,
he's
I
a
got
hugger.
A handshake. I want a hug next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make sure you get a hug
you.
next
Thank
time.
you.
I'm cool like that. I get you.
We're gonna get you a hug.
Get you a hug. Anybody else that you really love?
Joey Ryan's my go-to. Yeah. He's such a fantastic dirtball character, and I just adore him. The first time I saw him come out with that baby oil, I'm like, I lost my mind.
I always feel real bad because now I have a boyfriend. People have been watching the show for a while, know who I am as a human being, and that is I am a little hoish. And so I'm used to just being able to say whatever I want about guys.
Yeah.
And one of those guys I like to talk about is Joey Ryan, the character. You know, not him as a real human.
Right.
But he's covered in a mat of thick chest hair, and he's getting slicked up. Give me the oil. I want to do your back. Give me the lollipop. I don't care if it's been in your crotch. First of all, I just love blow pops more. Like, that's the main thing is...
Let's be honest.
Anytime he comes out. Right, exactly.
Oh.
Anytime he comes out, it's a reminder that I'm an adult and could buy a bag of blow pops if I wanted, but I haven't.
Why?
So here I am.
Why go there?
Right. So anyway, it's really awkward now when I'm at shows and I'm like, yes! And people are looking at me because they know, oh, that's Tyler Bateman's girlfriend. And I'm like, I've been a Joey Ryan fan for longer than I've been a girlfriend. Can I just have this lollipop?
Give me this moment.
So yeah, that's been fun. He wrestled at AWS this weekend.
Okay.
And then this is about the third time I've seen him do this. His gimmick is so over that he can literally be like, all right, let's do our opening thing where I try to get you to oil me, and then we can leave. And he doesn't actually leave, to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen this happen yet, but people will cheer every time because that's how over his gimmick is. It's just genius. He doesn't have to take as many crazy bumps as other people. He doesn't have to like bleed. He doesn't have to get chairs thrown at him. He has something that works for everybody around him. For most people, there's some people who don't like that sort of thing.
Not everyone's gonna be a fan,
right? But usually he's not like a main event or anything, so no one can really complain. He got slammed, or maybe he slammed the lion. He was fighting a lion onto, instead of Legos, lollipops.
Oh.
Took a bump on lollipops. Then he was really kind. They were dum-dums though, not blow pops.
Oh.
He threw the dum-dums into the crowd, but I don't think he thought about the fact that there were maybe like 100 dum-dums. And it took a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, he in fact said he got more blown from throwing the lollipops than he did during his match.
Damn.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was like an excessive amount of
that's
lollipops.
A lot. How much is too much?
Like you know, you expect one throw to this side, one throw to this side, one throw to that side, right?
Right.
It was like 8 around.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
I love it.
It was a long time. Do you have any wrestlers that you feel like Kathy from HR needs to manage, or that you would love in your? And this is fantasy.
Okay.
Anything you want.
So in fantasy world, I have to shred the Kathy persona because my dream to manage would actually be Aleister Black from NXT. Kathy doesn't really fit with that persona. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I love his whole aura, his everything. This kind of like very occult, like esoteric kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kathy totally wouldn't fit with that.
Maybe.
But I'd love to, be that Katrina and give my lick of death to anyone that,
I will give him my lick of death.
I will give him my lick of death.
It's good when you have a pause. Dramatic pause.
Exactly.
Yeah. I forgot to put on makeup today. I hope you all are enjoying my face, because I think I just have one eyelash that's just doing its own thing right now.
That's fine. But you have good eyebrows.
Thank you. Oh, that's so kind of you to say. They're big. They're real big.
That's good.
So outside of the indie scene, do you have a favorite wrestler in WWE besides? Well, you said Aleister Black.
Aleister Black I love. Honestly, Sami Zayn.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Him. I have to say, when I started really getting back into it, it was a random episode of, I think it was Raw at the time that he was on, and I hear his music kick, and I'm like, my inner, like, college ska girl, like, the radar went up.
Isn't dead.
I was like, what's happening? And I was so excited. I watched him, like, skink down the ramp, and I have a thing for redheads. I'm just, that was already a given. And the more I saw of him and the more, like, promos I would see him do, watching like his episode of Ride Along with him and Neville, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we would just like get along really well. Like,
Can you just be my
we have a lot
boyfriend?
of stuff in common, man. So, but yeah, I think that personality-wise, I love the angle they're doing now with him and KO back.
Me too. At first I was like, because they've been building him as the underdog, good guy.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you need to do it sometime. You need to pull the
Exactly.
trigger on this. And then they switched him to heel, and I was like, no, they're gonna send him back down the card. But no, it has been amazing. He is being his best self right now. Just annoying.
He's so annoying.
So annoying.
And I love it.
It's great.
Oh, it is great.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty wonderful. Him and Kevin go together like peanut butter and jelly. Evil peanut butter and jelly.
Evil PB&J.
So we already asked about you managing a wrestler. You said Aleister Black. I'm going to now reveal to all of you who I would manage. Please drum roll. You are the best guest I've ever had, because that is the best drum roll we've ever had on this show.
Thank you. I like almost broke a sweat on it. I like worked really hard on it.
Nia Jax.
Hey!
Dear God, that woman looks amazing. She's big, she's strong, she's beautiful. And then she opens her mouth and she's going to the mall with you. And that's not a scary voice. So if I had my druthers, she would be like a Brock Lesnar. She would barely speak. She'd just be big and terrifying. And I would be her Paul Heyman. Except me instead of Paul Heyman. I have hair. He doesn't have hair.
That's true.
So that would be my dream. I could just see a lot that would be easy to do with a monster as your like person to manage.
For sure.
Versus, there's some more complicated ones. When you have somebody with a personality or somebody who's a face or something. When you just got a big giant heel monster, perfect. I know what to do. So I would really love to do that. Nia, if you're listening, I'm only a call away, girl.
Hit a girl up.
Do you think there's anybody who desperately needs a manager?
I won't say like desperately needs it, but someone I think could really benefit would actually be Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's absolutely incredible as a competitor, as a performer, but I think that I couldn't even tell you what the manager would look like, but to just give her that extra little like punctuation mark, I think would...
Right, I said something similar for similar reasons I feel about Shinsuke.
For sure.
Asuka and Shinsuke, they both have this weird kind of quirky style.
Yeah.
But I don't think they can be like necessary. If Shinsuke hadn't come in already with all this build, and if Asuka hadn't come in with all this build, would they be where they are in the card?
Very true.
I don't necessarily think so. And I think they're both people who could benefit from having a manager to be more the grounded one.
Yeah.
Or the person, like in a movie, when you have the character who's supposed to be you, it's like, I am the normal person while everything,
Right.
so that you have an entry into this wacky world. I think they could use somebody like that. Like,
Totally.
what is Shinsuke doing?
What is Shinsuke doing?
I never know. But what if there was a manager there who was reacting in a way that this is how that's supposed to make me feel.
This is actually what you're supposed to be feeling at this point in time.
Right.
Fair enough.
Because right now I just like his violins. Can you remember, and I'll go first so you have some time to think about it. Can you remember the first manager or valet that left an impression on you, or a manager storyline? And for me, the first one that secretly left an impression was actually, I think, Miss Elizabeth. When I was very little, I saw a show because I used to pretend to be Hulk Hogan's like woman when my friends and I would play wrestling. But the first one to have I remember everything about them. Manager valet role was Chyna in her Mamacita storyline with Eddie Guerrero, because as a kid, seeing a big strong woman who would normally be, oh, she looks like a man, oh, she's hideous, she's this, she's that, being treated as a sexy woman, that meant so much to me.
For sure.
So, and then when he betrayed her, had a lot of feels. What about you?
That was the whole point. They wanted you to feel those
They wanted me
feels.
to feel it. I felt it. Felt it all.
For me, I remember my great-grandfather having a VHS tape of highlights of The Undertaker.
Good.
And Paul Bearer scared the ever-living crap out of me. Like, take her, whatever. Okay, like, I'll take you or leave you. That's fine. But to this day, I'm so disturbed by Paul Bearer with that voice. Like, I'm so, like, freaked out by that
Real
still.
creepy.
Real creepy.
How did he even get that? Like, that was that makeup on him, or was he just never going outside? I still don't know to this day.
I think it was makeup. I think there was some makeup involved.
It was just, he had this skin color that bothered me. It was like he was maybe dead already.
Like, Paul Bearer, are you getting enough iron? Can we interest you in a beach?
Right. I mean, vampires get more of a tan than you. I mean, I was raised on Buffy vampires, but still.
Yes.
So now we get to the big meaty question that people will yell at us, maybe on the internet over. Cool. Maybe we'll get in arguments about.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes.
Super.
It's fun.
As
a woman on the internet, it's become my life. So I don't even care anymore. Like, go ahead, yell. Yell at me. I don't care. Who do you think is the greatest manager of all time? Of all time.
I want to say Paul Heyman. I think he's so sharp and he's so convincing at every single thing that he ever says. Even if I disagree, I still agree. You know? Like, even I'm like, hey man, I don't know. But yeah, you make a good point. He literally can spew just nonsense. Mm-hmm. He cut a promo about being a volcano, and I was still right there with him, like hanging on every word. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Absolutely love him.
Paul Heyman's a great answer. I think a lot of people would say Paul Heyman as well. For me, it's Bobby the Brain Heenan.
For sure.
I didn't grow up watching Bobby Heenan because I am young and a Bobby, and only saw like little bits and stuff. But eventually, like more recently, when I started training again in wrestling, I started looking into managers because I was actually doing wrestling training to become a manager. They didn't have the announcer course at that time, so I was being given homework by the folks who run the school, including Joey Chaos, of people to watch, promos to watch, and I came across Bobby the Brain Heenan, and I felt literally breathless listening to an insult he spewed at one point, where I was just like, dear God, that man has a family. Yeah. And as I watched more and more of his videos, I would see that over and over. He was great at being cowardly. He was great at putting the other wrestler over in an underhanded way so you didn't notice it. Not the way that a lot of people do where it's really obvious what they're doing, but like you wouldn't even notice it. And the insults and his ability to just immediately improvise whatever he was saying. I was like, this man is a whole nother level that I will never be on. But he is the level I aspire. Because one day I want to give an insult so well that you're like, oh, my heart.
Like, my future children are going to feel that.
Everybody in my lineage just got slapped in the mouth. That's what I want my words to do. Like Bobby the Brain Heenan. Just passed away this year. Mm-hmm. If you've never seen him, look up some of his promos. They're just awesome. He's great. I'd tell you which one specifically, but I suddenly don't remember the name of one of his most famous ones. He did one where he was trying to get somebody to wrestle Ric Flair. It was on a talk show. That's a great one. He got water poured on him. Those are enough clues to get you to the video.
You'll find it.
So I do briefly just want to talk about a few other managers.
For sure.
That I think, so not everybody who watches this show is 100% learned about wrestling. Some folks come in to learn a little more. Yeah. So I wanted to, and also with the different time periods that people watch wrestling, give a few examples of other managers to go check out if you get bored one day. Sherry Martel. Mm-hmm. She's currently who I'm watching a lot of as I'm working on my character Sarah Wolf.
Yes.
Sarah Wolf, for anyone who doesn't follow my Twitter, which I don't believe you'd be watching this show if you don't, is Tyler Bateman's manager. And she's kind of a mix between Nancy from that movie, The Craft. There we go.
Yeah.
Drusilla from Buffy, and Harley Quinn.
These are like all my favorite people.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
They really are. I could totally get that.
So that's kind of what we're working on. And so Sherry is kind of a big influence on that because she was like the bad girl manager back in the day. So bad. She's real bad.
Managed bad in a good way.
Yes, bad in the best way. Managed Macho Man and really is credited with taking Shawn Michaels to the next level.
Absolutely. I remember she did like this series of promos about how she was looking for a man. And she was so like ferocious in the way she even talked. I mean, I'm looking for a man and he has to be a champion. Oh, Stunning. Great stuff.
Pretty great. Memorable
even.
Lou Albano, the captain. So he tended to manage like heels like Koloff and Bruno Sammartino. People like that. He is best known maybe for his interactions with Cyndi Lauper when they were doing that rock and roll stuff that the WWE did.
The rock and wrestling of the 80s. He was featured in the Girls Just Want to Have Fun music video as her daddy.
He was the dad! I didn't even... that's beautiful.
What a fantastic moment. And I think their interactions were just so, like, heartwarming even. Because, like, even if they were, like, taking jabs at each other, it's like, they were probably having a lot of fun.
But that's your dad.
That's your dad, though.
He also, weirdly enough, led 15 different tag teams to the tag team titles, which might be a record.
Could be. Jeez.
Like 15, good lord.
And totally batshit crazy.
Yeah.
He gets, like, those crazy eyes. Such a delight.
And I think, did he have, like, rubber bands?
He would I don't know if it was, like, he had a facial piercing, but he would literally, like, hang a rubber band just off of his cheek.
Yeah.
Just in case he needed it for later. Just, excuse me, real quick.
Gonna start doing
just a little,
that.
like, little paper.
Just a little, yeah. So we have to talk about the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, as well.
Yeah.
The first time I actually saw him, because again, I'm a BB, was when he was managing, were they called the Golden Girls? It was, WWE had women's tag teams for a little bit. Oh, and it was these two women who, first of all, I was watching it because I was just in awe. We keep being told that the original way that women were in wrestling were the super sexy, like giant titty, very skinny, bad wrestling women that we grew up with.
Right.
But prior to that time period, there were actually women wrestlers who were still pretty, because most wrestlers have to be a certain look as well, but more normal shaped and more athletic. And it was, I can't remember their name, but it was them versus the Jumping Bomb Angels. They were a team from Japan. And they actually said the weights as they came out and everything.
Damn.
Like the Golden Girls were like, I think, a combined weight of 300 pounds or something like that.
Sweet
like
deal.
Right. It was something like, wow, you're admitting that these are strong, like muscled women.
Yeah.
And they weren't young and they weren't all like fake, and the Jumping Bomb Angels were amazing, and it was just such a good match. And there was Jimmy at the bottom just yelling at everybody. So that's the first time I saw him. But he was known for managing the Hart Foundation, of course, and Honky Tonk Man. For sure.
I mean, he was, I think, really fun to watch. And I actually love when the New Day did, like, kind of tributes to different managers. And I think it was Xavier that did him. I thought that was hysterical. Such a nice, like, homage to them.
Terrible as well.
Hysterical!
We have a guy in our class who I love to hate. What's his name? It's like horrendous or something.
Heinous.
There we go. His heinous. Like his highness, but he's heinous. And he has, just like Jimmy Hart, he has a megaphone.
Love it.
And he'll chime in at random times, and I hate him and despise him and love that he is able to make me feel that way every time he pulls that little thing up. Because it'll come out of nowhere. You forget it's there.
It's just like out of nowhere. Also, may we just take a minute and recognize he basically has a little wig to match like every single color jacket that he ever wears. It's amazing.
When he was a referee, he had a white wig. And he came to yell at me, and his wig fell off. And instead of no-selling the wig falling off, which you probably should have done because he was being a ref, he's like, oh no. And he scrambled for his wig.
And then when he went to actually do the count, I think it fell off and he was like holding it on with one hand. It was fantastic.
It was great. Again, you can watch all of these online. Miss Elizabeth, who we mentioned already. Mr. Fuji, who managed Demolition, Yokozuna, Kamala. This is bad. I had forgotten about Yokozuna for a while. And I went back and watched again, and he was freaking cool. And all his managers were really cool. Who else managed him? Jim Cornette also managed Yokozuna at one point. Yeah. But Mr. Fuji was so good at that smiling, incredibly devious, kind of devilly persona that you can imagine. With his cane just always at the ready. Just
ready for anything.
Coming for your ankles. He was great. He also passed away recently. Classy Freddie Blassie. He, when I first saw him, I think he was standing next to Hulk Hogan, but he's known for Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik, being with them.
Wasn't he also, like from like old school boxing world? And he just reminds me of like a smarmy, like old school grandpa.
Yeah.
that, like, everyone just
like
despised.
Right. He'd make you, like, go out and work extra hard because it builds character type of guy. Yeah.
Totally.
He definitely had that persona. And around that time period, I think one of the reasons managers were more popular is because of people like him.
Yeah.
Who made it seem more like how a boxer has a manager kind of thing.
Exactly. Like, actually more involved in, like, the training aspect of it to make sure that you're, like, working really hard.
Right. And I think modern days, we saw that a little bit with Darren Young and Bob Backlund. Yeah, they kind of did that. I would have liked to see more done with that, but they don't seem to have any faith in Darren Young. Whatever, it's none of my business. But he had a fun angle with another great manager, I believe Slick. He was starting to get old, and so Slick came in and bought the stable left over from him, I believe. And he sold someone to Bob Heenan. But anyway, so he kind of took over from that. And that was, I don't know, just an interesting time that we had so many managers that they could buy stables off of each other.
Like, this is just a thing. It's like Monopoly. I kind of like that. I'll give you Park Place.
Shake a stick without running. I hit myself in the mouth without running into a manager. Have you ever seen The Grand Wizard?
Yes. So
that guy's a character.
Was he, like, late 70s? Because I feel like there was such, like, a quintessential, like, misty 70s vibe to his whole persona.
Yeah, I think it was 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
I do think so. He managed Billy Graham and Sergeant Slaughter, and he literally just looked like a goddamn wizard.
Goddamn. He looked like
sunglasses and his wrap.
Like, he looked like he could have had his own cult.
Yes.
Like an alternative medicine cult
Maybe
or something.
He did. Right.
Maybe
like,
he did. I don't know.
He's selling some wrapped crystals on the side.
He could be. He's like, take this patchouli oil. You're going to love it.
Yeah. Look up some of his promos. He's pretty great and weird.
Very
so weird.
Fun.
Yes. Jim Cornette mentioned briefly, but he also managed Owen Hart, Mark Henry, Midnight Express. He's somebody who's quite a character nowadays with his podcast and just talking all sorts of smack.
He is just the king of smack talk. Like, literally, you can just watch. I was on YouTube browsing for stuff, and I saw the caption was, no lie, Jim Cornette 10-hour shoot promo. I was like, I don't know about that. If it's just like a loop of something, but regardless, talk about a filibuster. Like, just will not shut up.
That just reminded me. He had a promo for Yokozuna once when Mr. Fuji was there as well. So it's the three of them standing there, and he talked for, I swear, 4 minutes. He talked as long as the matches are. But he kept ramping and ramping and ramping and ramping. I don't even know how, because he started off pretty loud. So that you were there the whole time.
Exactly.
So that's a guy who can talk a lot, but you want to hear everything that he's saying. He is saying some bullshit sometimes, but hey.
Very true.
That's what it's all about. Already mentioned Slick. Teddy Long, who some of you may be familiar with now because he popped out as a joke when it was really supposed to be Kurt Angle that one time. Woman, also an honorable mention. I knew her mostly from her work with Sandman, who is at PCW the last two shows. So that
craziness.
Kind of just standing next to me, choking people with his kendo stick.
And just pouring beer down people's throats.
Comes in smoking a cigarette.
Fantastic.
I'm like, no fire alarm's gonna go? Alright, that's fine.
Fair enough.
We are allowed to smoke in this building. I've been lied to. But Woman was really great for interfering, for joining in on the fun with that kendo stick, and for talking a lot of shit to Sandman to motivate him.
You know, I love a good shit talker. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's part of your job as a manager is to hype up your client or your advocate or whoever it may be. But to shit talk the audience too and really get them involved.
I think that Lana is probably kind of the modern version of this when she was with Rusev. I don't know about her stuff with Tamina right now. She's working on it. They're working on it. But with Rusev, I felt she was a really great manager because she would talk so much shit to the crowd and they would love it.
They would love it. And you know how I love an accent.
Yeah.
But I think
the American people.
She did like a thing where she like totally ripped on Obama, and they had like all these videos of Obama working out.
She what did she say one time? She would call them peasants and be like, I'm not from this little town or this little village or whatever.
These little peasant people.
It was great.
She was awesome.
She was so good. And she would sometimes give Rusev the business. Not very often. Not as often as back in the 80s people did it. But she'd sometimes give him the business to motivate him. And it was always fun to watch.
I think that Rusev Crush was just so iconic and wonderful. And also love that she was cool with getting her entire everything ruined when Roman Reigns crashed their wedding celebration.
I think we've told this story before, but just in case you haven't heard that podcast, gonna tell you a brief story. Tamara and I were in the OPS. Tamara is sad she couldn't be here today. She is sick. Also, there's a fire raging, and it's possible that the ash has made things even harder for her to breathe. So pray for Tamara. Anyway, she's fine. Don't worry. So she and I were at that show, and we're watching. And there's a little boy behind us. Little boy, maybe 5, 6, 7, maybe 6. I feel young enough that he had that lisp that little kids sometimes have, where it's like witches and stuff like that. They talk a certain way. That was britches, the word I was trying to say.
Witches.
Yes. So behind us, he's been talking the whole show, explaining everything to somebody behind us.
Fantastic.
Totally gets the psychology of wrestling. This child. Okay, so what they're going to do here is blah, blah, blah. But, like, with the little kid voice. And so he's kind of quiet. We see the cakes come out. We see Rusev. We see Roman Reigns. And all of a sudden, we hear this quiet, tiny voice in the silence. Destroy it. And then the cake was destroyed.
Genius.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
It was. This child didn't even want to explain. It was like, no. This cake is gonna die.
It sounds like an actually tolerable human child.
That's
was fantastic.
Right. Okay. I'm not a big fan of kids, but Tamara and I were like, we also just appreciate a little kid who knows his psychology. It's just great.
That's fantastic.
Start those marks young.
Mm-hmm.
Vicky Guerrero is somebody who did a really good job of making everyone despise her, which was her job. Her voice.
Excuse me. The grating voice.
Yes.
Just so.
My lip automatically goes up when I hear it. Excuse me. I don't know if you saw that. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people forget Stephanie McMahon was a bit of a manager for a while. And I loved it as a kid. Like, some of my favorite storylines involved her stuff. From that transition from being really innocent, getting kidnapped, to nope, turns out I'm an evil bitch. Beautiful. Wonderful.
Well
Except for what happened in China. Still mad about that. Gonna be mad about that till I die. But I think Stephanie is really good at manipulating people. Like, and that's what you need to do to be a manager. You have to be able to manipulate people's emotions to be whatever you want them to be.
It's true. She's like the quintessential literal boss bitch.
Yes. Boss ass bitch. Were there any other modern people? You mentioned La Katrina.
Love La Katrina.
Yes.
She's amazing. When she has just this such beautiful control over Mil Muertes. I love him. Mil Muertes. What is he from? El Inframundo? No, that's something else. He's from like somewhere very El Inferno or something like
I don't
amazing.
remember
But whatever the case. And she would have like this amulet that was like all of his power. And it's such a beautiful like suspension of disbelief that, you know, as a wrestling fan you have to have.
Right.
And yeah, just like the bonus of losing to Mil Muertes was the lick of death.
Gonna get licked.
Yeah. And someone else that we actually, I really have grown to love is actually Zelina Vega from NXT. I love what she's been doing with Andrade Cien Almas. On the mic, I think she is ferocious and she's willing to get involved, and I love that.
Yes.
She's been a pleasure to watch.
She's been really great. But back to Lucha Underground real quick, because I do just want to say on your note about suspension of disbelief, guys, if you haven't watched Lucha Underground, it's on Netflix. Go watch it. If you're like me and you like your wrestling to have some story, that's one of the reasons I love Lucha Underground, is they have a story. There is mystical shit. There's a gang war. There's some secret ass shit involving the guy at the very top. You know, like it's a show. It's not just, we are athletes who go in there and beat people up. It's got a whole bunch of other stuff in it that gives everything extra weight, in my opinion.
Very true.
It's beautifully produced. I love it. You should check it out. Like I said, if you have Netflix, it's free to you.
It is.
I've also been enjoying the Singh brothers lately.
Yeah, okay.
I think that I love them as the Bollywood boys.
Yes.
I was kind of sad we lost the Bollywood boys. But now they get to do so much more.
It's true, and they have almost this, like, you know, straight and narrow kind of persona along with Jinder that I think is, it really, I mean, the two of them, like, flanking him, I think, is just...
It's great also just for the visual.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure.
Like, two hotties, and their very tall and intimidating friend.
And can we just say he can wear the hell out of some of those suits? My God.
I talked about this on the AfterBuzz SmackDown Live show. Jinder fully dressed is kind of my jam. Jinder, as he gets more naked, becomes not my jam.
Gotcha.
But when he's fully dressed, he's a bit of my jam. He came out the last week in this suit, and I was just like, Jinder, I would give you the pussy. Like,
damn, like,
this suit is really doing something for me. And so I kind of mentioned this to the host of that show, Christian Rosenberg. And then, of course, as the match goes, he starts getting naked. I'm like, oh, nope, it's gone again.
Yep, it's gone.
As soon as the turban came on, then the jacket came on, I was like, no longer want any of this.
And I'm no longer interested.
Thank you, but no thank you. So that's the power of a well-dressed man. In case any of you are watching this and you're lonely, try wearing a bespoke suit. And you will get some compliments.
And maybe some loafers without socks on.
Oh, yeah. Loafers. I'd rather you wear the socks, but, you know, it is a power move. It's a power move.
Yeah, you gotta own that. You gotta own that decision to not wear socks.
It's true. I've gotten in some fights with people. A few other people from the modern era right now. Maurice, I think, goes perfectly with The Miz.
Absolutely. Another man that can wear the hell out of some suits.
It's true. Even though there's also like a weird I'm maybe in a video game aspect to everything he wears.
It's very true. When he's like, okay, I'm just coming out here strictly to talk. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yes. Awesome. But then, I mean, just as a couple, I think they're such, pardon me if I say an iconic duo. Just kidding.
But I couldn't see Maurice with anyone else. Still disappointed she didn't actually wrestle at all against, John Cena, but whatever.
Yeah.
Xavier has transitioned more back into wrestling now than ever before, but he was the New Day's manager for a very long time, and he was very good at that job.
For sure.
And I think now we're seeing that all three of them are good at being managers.
They just all have such amazing personalities, and they're so committed to the New Day. It's a brand of its own.
You know, funny enough, somebody I think would be a good manager if he didn't look like a big jacked Marine is John Cena. Because whenever John Cena's in somebody's corner, like what you just said about them, he is 1,000% invested. And that's why we get so many great gifs of his face.
It's true. Oh, it is.
Because he's like, whoa, 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 like he is in it. And I think more managers should be like John Cena. I think if he ever gets old and loses some of that muscle, he could just be a manager.
I would love to see that. I mean, he's cut some decent promos. I'm not mad about it.
He has. The one with Roman Reigns, as awkward as it was because Roman did not have a comeback.
He did not. It was, nope.
But I mean, the promo itself, you were on board. It bothers me slightly that he talks like he's from the hood, but I am from Virginia, and all of our people, no matter their race, mostly talk like we're from the hood. I've had to get rid of that accent because people say things out here. They're like, whoa, why are you talking black? And I'm like, I'm not talking black. This is Hampton, Virginia, homie. What's up? You ain't from Bad News. And then I'm like, oh, I'm doing it.
Uh-oh, it's happening.
I'm doing the thing. Okay. They all talk like this. And then I fade into the shadows. John Cena does the same thing.
Great segue into John Cena.
Yes. So those are some managers. Was there anybody you feel like we missed that you want to touch on?
James Ellsworth. I love the angle with him just kind of becoming Carmella's lapdog.
It's true.
I loved that. I loved when she would actually come up to the ring and hang his little leash on the post. I thought that was delicious, delightful, and lovely.
Yes.
But again, okay, like, bye, James Ellsworth.
James
See you later.
Hey, he had a longer 15 minutes of fame than he ever anticipated.
You better best believe it.
Yep.
That is for sure.
So, happy for him, and now when he goes back to the indie scene, he'll probably be able to ask for more money than before, so, this was all great for him. Speaking of Carmella, I'll just mention again for the 80th time that I hate that bitch, but I love her clothes. The, little bodysuit that she wears. If I could buy that in a store, WWE, take my money. I will buy it.
Her look is so, South Jersey, which is right, across the bridge from where I grew up. So,
you look
I feel
at her
I know her, and I extra hate her.
Yes.
Because I feel like I know her. So
I do hate her hats. Actually, I hate every woman who's beautiful and has long curly hair and wears a baseball cap, because I feel like it's always the same type of personality that does it. Just letting you know. There's now like 3 of them. Oh, because there's Carmela.
Yeah.
There's the 2 girls who just came up.
Mandy and
Liv. Is that her name? Yeah.
Liv Morgan?
Liv Morgan, I think. Liv Morgan. And Mandy. Yeah. So I know what y'all are about. Anyway. So that's our list of managers, people we think you should check out. Let us know in the comments or tweet us at Women Wrestling Friends. It's actually Women Wrestling F, because we couldn't fit friends in there.
There's just too much. There's too much friendship. You can't control it.
Can't put it all in.
No.
We'll put the f at the end. And let us know if there's any managers that you think are great. Let us know who you think the greatest manager of all time is. We want to hear your thoughts and stuff. And we're back. We're back in business. There was a bit of a break while I was doing some wrestling stuff, but now my life has kind of gotten back under control, and you will see us again soon. We've got some future guests already lined up. Can't wait for you to see them. Thank you so much for being here. Can you plug your shit? Anything you want people to do to find you on the internet?
Honestly, I'm at LysGruesome on Instagram, so check me out there.
Check her out there. And we'll see you next time on Women Wrestling.